You have to have that reset. But
that's unplugging. Yeah.
if you go, just like a stock, like if it runs, it's going to crash eventually. It's just like a runner.
Exactly.
Like if you're a marathon runner, you can only run so long before you get tired.
And that is the hardest part. And if you can actually find your way into business and do well for yourself, which many people can as solopreneurs, you avoid a lot of the headaches of actually having to manage and deal with massive amounts of people.
Instead of buying that $5,000 or $10,000 TV and entertainment system that I can use every day, which, my $700 TV works just as well.
Right? No, I get it.
I can't tell the difference. I would rather go spend that and go see some place I've never seen before, or experience a new culture, or gain some kind of experience. Like, how much money do I put back into my business? Like, it's a lot of juggling. And it took me a long time to get a really good grasp on that. Like I said, it took me 5 years to get where I could be considered an independent, full desk, headhunter, where if I wanted to, I could go out and start my own recruiting company if I wanted to and do this on my own, because I do have a business partner.
And we are back with another episode of the Julius Files. I am your host, Jasan Julius, and today we actually have an entrepreneurial chronicle. I have been fortunate enough to get Josh Francis to actually come in and tell us his story. I do want to say as we get started that generally I would classify Josh as a solopreneur, which is something that I'm a huge advocate of because I've long said, like, in order to scale a business, you got to scale people, and that is the hardest part. And if you can actually find your way into business and do well for yourself, which many people can as solopreneurs, you avoid a lot of the headaches of actually having to manage and deal with massive amounts of people. So, Josh, how are you, brother?
I'm doing pretty well. I've got some exciting things going on here lately, both in business and life, but I think the most notable thing is I just invested into a 1960s Cobra kit car company.
Wow.
Where we build the old Shelby Cobras. You can't, to buy a real Shelby Cobra, you're going to pay $1 million for it. So all the ones that are available are our kit cars.
Yep.
So, there's probably 4 or 5 other companies in the whole country that build them.
Really?
Yeah, we moved it from Iowa to Lafayette.
That's a hell of a move.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. We do have one guy in the books who's our builder. We got a couple cars already in line to be built this year. The goal is to build 5 to 10 next year.
Really?
Yeah, so it's going to be an uphill battle, but I'm excited because I'm a huge car guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in charge of sales and marketing, so like when I first started doing anything that I do, being in cars is kind of what ignited my initial networking experience.
Okay.
So when I grew up on 4-wheelers, dirt bikes, hot rods because of Dad, and at the time we didn't really have enough money to fix things when shit went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it was me and Dad out there with a wrench fixing all the stuff that went down. So I developed a early mechanical ability, which in turn got me hired on at Caterpillar right after high school. And working there allowed me to make enough money to build this car. I had a 2000 Trans Am that I built. I paid $7,000 for the car, and I put about $50,000 into it like an idiot. So
pulling that back out's going to be hard.
So like a total waste of money, but I look at it as not a waste of, I look at it as paying my tuition into business because it started getting a lot of attention on the internet.
Really? Like
before Facebook groups became a thing, you had internet forums.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a website called ls1tech.com. It was all about GM LS-based vehicles. So modding them, making them go faster, whatever. Started posting on there about my build, and it started getting a lot of following, and people started adding me on Facebook. Well, as I built this car, working at Caterpillar, their business is very heavily dependent on the oil and gas industry, which is always up and down. So I've been laid off a couple times already, but 2015 rolled around, and they offered me a severance package.
Really?
Yep, to leave.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. Take it. They paid me $11,000. I think I had $2,000 in my bank account, so I had like $13,000 in my name. And the reason I'm bringing up the car thing is because throughout that network, I met a friend who had a friend who got people jobs.
Okay.
I knew about him. So when I took the severance package, I asked him, I was like, hey, Nate, I know you get people jobs, can you help me out? So he got me an interview with like an electrical contracting company. It didn't really work out. I knew he made pretty decent money in what he did, but I didn't know exactly what getting people jobs meant.
Mm-hmm.
So I just asked him, I was like, hey man, I know you work from home, make pretty good money, and you get people jobs. Is this something I can do too? And he's like, no, I never thought about growing it, because at the time he'd only been doing it for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
So it was
there was a new thing for him as well.
New for him.
Okay.
So he's like, meet me at Buffalo Wild Wings on this date. So I showed up, and he kind of showed me the basics of what he does and how you make money. And as soon as he showed me how you make money and how much money you can make doing it, I was in. I was like, all right, dude, let's do this. So here we are 9 years later. Our company is called PQ Talent. We work with industrial manufacturers, distributors, custom OEMs, integration companies, and we help them find engineers or salespeople or management or basically just about any type of role that they need, any type of specialized role.
Okay.
So essentially we're recruiters or headhunters. I don't like the term recruiter because it's very broad.
Mm-hmm.
So initially when I tell people I'm a recruiter, they ask me what branch of the military I'm in.
Oh, that type of, okay. No, I get it. And maybe headhunter, the slang term, but maybe that is more of a resonates, or at least people understand where you're coming from. Okay.
So I have to kind of like, every time someone asks me, I got to like take a step back. I'm like, well, here's what I actually do. I work with X, Y, and Z. This is what we do. Because if not, they're like, what's a recruiter?
Yeah.
Because even in the corporate world, companies have their own in-house recruiting teams.
Okay.
Now, their whole job is to find and place the openings that are at that company.
Mm-hmm.
But I still work with these recruiting teams at these companies, because even them have trouble filling these specialized positions.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I got my start, very in a nutshell, short story about how, I came along to my partner, Nate, which again came back to my networking with cars.
Yep.
So even though I spent that $50,000 on a $7,000 car, it opened up my whole network. It got me to meet him, and I've even placed people out of my car community in better jobs.
Really?
Yeah. So it's paid me back, threefold or whatever, just from doing that car build.
And I mean, that right there is just perspective in itself, because you can look back and you could beat yourself up for overly investing in a car that's never going to have a return, or you can look for the auxiliary returns that you're actually getting off of the efforts themselves.
I've found there's always a good thing, or not necessarily bad, but there's always a give and take with every decision that you make. Everything that you do, there's always an outcome that is positive, and usually there's always a negative balance side to it.
Mm-hmm.
like everything. So for instance, with building a car, I wasted $57,000, but it made me become an entrepreneur in the long run, really.
No, and I do like that. I mean, because I want to ask some more candid questions, but you just jumped in.
Yeah.
And that is I think so many people can look back and it's like you're a fool for doing it, but the only way that you would truly do it is if you kind of maintained being a fool and just kind of jumped in and started solving problems as you went. Because if you truly knew everything that you were going to get into, you could look back and go, man, if I knew all of this, would I have actually made that jump?
Yeah.
So if you've been doing it for 9 years, I mean, in like all honesty, how many years up front did it take you to where you really felt like you had paid your dues, gotten off the ground, and literally had something of substance to continue to pursue?
Probably 5 solid years of struggle. Like, I made pretty decent money at CAT, and then when I started doing recruiting, I probably took a 50% pay cut from working there, and held that for several years. So just completely eating shit, like shutting the back gate so my electricity didn't get shut off, like borrowing money from mom and dad so I can pay my cell phone bill. Like, it was pretty bad.
No, I would thank you for being candid, because that is the real story of entrepreneurship, not to mention the time frame, that side of it. 5 years of making those hard choices and struggles, and yes, likely ending up one way or another avoiding bill collectors and going out of your way just to make enough ends meet so that you can wake up the next day and just simply live to fight another day.
I couldn't tell you how many times where I had to count on a placement going through so I could continue the next month.
Yep.
Like I was that close to like bankrupt. Like, and our process, like the way we get paid is everything we do is contingency based.
Okay.
So there's two sides of our business. You have the business development side and then you have the candidate side. So in order to place somebody in a job, you got to have a job to work on.
Yep.
So that is the business development side of our business, where I'm out cold calling companies like manufacturers, calling VPs of HR, presidents, CEOs, owners of companies, depending on the size of them, like determining who the decision maker is, getting them on the phone, and then talking them into paying us a 25% fee on a $100,000 salary to fill a role for them.
Which is a perfect example of, like, it's so many people are like, oh, just build it and they will come. And I mean, we've all got our own, our own stories. Mine wasn't just to build it and they will come, but for you, it wasn't just I'm gonna hang a shingle and I'm in business and I'm a matchmaker. No, you literally had to go develop relationships on both sides of the match in order to be an actual matchmaker.
Yep. And like I said, it's all contingency based. So yeah, you could get the job order, what we call job orders, when you get them, and then you go out and you start hunting for people that might want to be in this type of role. And the type of people we go after are already people that are working.
Okay.
We go after passive candidates because those are the best people.
Yep.
Usually people that are looking for a job, usually at the higher levels, there's a reason for it. And usually it's not always a good reason.
No, it's for somebody told me some type of statistic, like if you were an A player and you happen to be looking for a job, like you're on the job market for 7 or 8 days, like that you're not there for long. You're not looking for long.
Yep. So, we present a candidate, we go through the motions of, the interview process, face-to-face interviews, drug testing, background checks, all that stuff. It's got to check out. And then finally, they get an offer. They can either accept or deny. There's negotiations that go on there. And then they get a start date, and then usually we get paid 15 to 30 days after. So our sales cycle is very long. It can be 3 to 4 months long to go from nothing to a check in my hand can be 3 or 4 months. So that has made me control cash flow a lot differently than most people. Most people get paid on a weekly basis, and they have kind of a short-term view of 1 to 2 weeks out. It's hard for them to envision 3, 4, 5 months out.
No, honestly, that was one of the reasons why. I mean, food and beverage industry is the easiest industry to get into. It's one of the hardest to succeed at. But what I saw was, in my brain, I didn't have the ability or the thought process of how do I start a project and wait 30, 60, 90, 120 before I saw revenue. If nothing else, I could bring a product in, combine multiple products, and as that end product is going out the door, I'm collecting cash right then and there and learning how to control that cash flow. And yes, for having to think about starting a process and knowing 3 to 4 months before you actually possibly get paid, because it's the entire sequence of events having to fall like dominoes before you actually get paid at any piece in there. You got to start the process all over again.
So that's why it's so important to keep what we call your pipeline full. Like, you have a long pipeline, you want to stuff that fucker full and bidding as many job orders and many candidates as you can, because you're not going to place all of them. That's a guarantee.
Yep.
That doesn't happen. Sometimes, like by luck or chance, but if you got 10 candidates in there, if you can land 3 of them, you're doing pretty good, because things happen. Like, you submit somebody, they may come right back to you and say, no, this is not a good fit. Like, they don't even want to talk to them. And you're like, shit, I just put a week into this, and they just turn them down.
Exactly.
Like, so you have to keep that pipeline full. And then, at the end of the day, when you get paid, yeah, you might make $20,000, $30,000, $60,000 in one chunk, but it may be another 4 or 5 months for you to get paid again.
Exactly.
So it's really like trying to balance, okay, what can I spend? What should I put back for emergency? What can I go invest with? Like, how much money do I put back into my business? Like, it's a lot of juggling. And it took me a long time to get a really good grasp on that. Like I said, it took me 5 years to get where I could be considered an independent, full desk, headhunter, where if I wanted to, I could go out and start my own recruiting company if I wanted to and do this on my own, because I do have a business partner.
Okay.
But it's wiser for him and I to work together, just because like his contacts, a lot of our clients, so I'd say about 50% of the contacts are his and 50% are mine.
Okay.
In terms of what we've developed. And a lot of his contacts come from his personal development in his past career before he started PQ Talent. He worked for a company called Parker Hannifin, and they make a lot of hydraulic components. So that's kind of what we got started in, with hydraulics and industrial automation.
That's where I was going to ask you, is that, I don't know if they have like general headhunters, but obviously you're in a niche.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, how did you choose that niche itself? And I mean, what the why? Well, why are you in that niche?
Yeah, so it's a lot to do with both of our backgrounds. Like I said earlier, he was a hydraulic systems engineer and a global account manager for Parker Hannifin.
Okay.
So for the hydraulics industry. So if it moves, or if it's got wheels and an engine on a piece of equipment outside that moves, like an excavator or a bulldozer, like the hydraulics on it, he knows how to design those systems from an engineering standpoint.
So he's got a background knowledge to what he's looking to improve.
Which helps make that connection, because they're able to talk their tech talk to you guys who understand it, to relay it to find the recruit.
Right. And then he also has the ability, he not only does he know how to design it, he knows how to go sell it at a corporate level.
Okay.
So, during his time, he got moved all over the country working for Parker. So he's worked in the Pacific Northwest, the West, the South, the East, and he developed all these relationships with these presidents and HR people in these companies that he was selling to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So when he started PQ Talent in early 2015 in December, or it was like January, he already had a bucket of contacts that he knew he could go after, and he already established relationships with, and they already knew him.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of, I wouldn't say easy for him to get his foot in the door, but it was not a lot of cold calling on his end, to get started, but he still had to fill the role,
Oh no, but that bigger thing is that it does come back to that. Most people, I don't have regrets, but if there is one thing that if I could go backwards to do all over again, it would have been being present in the moment as I was gaining all of these different skill sets as I was working through my younger life, because it all ends up being so applicable later on in life in general. So when he was making those contacts initially, I'm sure he was not thinking, I'm going to spend the next 5 years making these contacts so that when I go into the recruiting, I'm going to have all half of these relationships already built. I just got to go find the other half. It was happening naturally. And then he was able to make it applicable to the new thing he was actually getting into.
He was allowed to he allowed him to leverage those connections and that network to help him in the beginning. And luckily enough, they're like, a couple of them said yes.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And then my end, I worked at Caterpillar. So we built large diesel, natural gas engines for all kinds of stuff, either oil drilling or marine use or naval use or power generation. Like, these engines are enormous.
I've seen a couple videos where it's just like mind blowing that they're an engine the size of a building. Yeah,
So that's what we did at Cat. So that's where I've got my first step into how manufacturing works, and like how distribution works, like how process works, how engineers think, what they have to do. Because I got to mingle, like I was in assembly, so I wasn't like high up at Caterpillar, but I did some critical component assembly.
Okay.
Like if I did my job bad, I just destroyed an $800,000 engine.
Exactly.
So you had to know a little bit about what you were doing. So Nate, the reason he brought me on to PQ Talent is because he saw my ability to be resourceful and my ability to network. I didn't know I had those skills, but that gets back to building that car. I probably gained 3,000 people that followed me. And he's like,
just off of building the car.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
So he's like, this guy knows how to network, which is a key piece of being a recruiter, and is resourceful. Like if I run into a problem, I don't just sit there and twiddle my thumbs and go, what do I do? I try to find a solution to it. Like you have to think outside of the box.
I think it's a natural thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's like I found that I refer, jokingly, a professional firefighter, but when it's all said and done, I enjoy solving problems. Yeah. And I wonder, when you're talking about that 7% that finds their way into entrepreneurship, what are some of those key things that do come to you naturally? And it's not about problem solving ability. It's about enjoying the actual problem solving process.
And recruiting's definitely something you have to enjoy, because it's a straight hustle game 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. You don't just have regular cash flow coming in. If you're not placing candidates, you're not making money.
This is the ultimate commission sale.
Yeah. It's 100% commission all the time. So it's I have a routine every day. I wake up at 7:30. I'm at the computer by 8 with my coffee, and I'm digging in by 9. And then hopefully by 2 o'clock rolls around, I kind of run out of gas sometimes, and I call it.
Well, and because the thing is I left Chrysler as a second shifter at heart. And when I got into business, it was like, I didn't want to give up my second shift schedule. And they were like, but you opened a coffee shop. And I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't have any intention of opening it myself. But when you're dealing with everybody, you truly are stuck in that 9 to 5, because those are the people that those resources are available from 9 to 5, and they quickly shut off after 5 o'clock, where it's almost rude to be reaching out past that. That dictated you're going to be a 9 to 5er.
Yep. And it's kind of a weird dynamic too, because yes, like the decision makers. So if you're doing the business development side and you're calling companies, you want to call between 9 and 5. Usually the best times are like 9:30 to 11, mm-hmm. and then like 1 to 3.
Okay.
Because you got that lunch break in the middle. Yep. And I found that the early morning calls go much better than the afternoon calls, because everybody's cranky after lunch. They just want to go home, and they don't want to be pitched to.
That's a realization of knowing where your sweet spot is. Yeah.
So I know that's where I get hung up on a lot. So I try to do it best in the mornings. But the weird dynamic is not only are the decision makers at work, so are the people I want to recruit that I want to talk to now. Mm-hmm. So I got to schedule a lot of calls for the evening when these people get off work.
And that was what I was thinking, is that you're going to have to work late, because they're not going to be free to actually engage in a real conversation until after work. Okay.
So I may shut it down at 2 o'clock, but it starts back up again at 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, because I got to get on the phone and talk to candidates.
Yep.
I try my best to either catch them in the early morning before work or catch them on their lunch break. Those are the ideal times for me. That way I don't have to work until 6 or 7 o'clock in the night, in the evening. But I'd say on average now, in the beginning, I probably put 70 hours a week into just, like, my main focus when I first started was doing cold calling and business development. I brought in so much business that we had to dial it back, because we couldn't effectively, what's the word I'm looking for, effectively help all of our clients brought in.
Run people. You were filling up your pipeline.
Right.
Okay.
So at one time, I probably had 120 job openings between two of us.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Man, and that's payday right there, if you could actually fill all those jobs.
Like, you have companies like, hey, do you have anything for this? It's like, I haven't even touched you guys yet, because I'm halfway through my list.
Yep.
I got 30 companies here to work with. So we learned really quickly that you can outscale yourself very quickly. And it's not a good thing, because if you start getting a reputation that you can't help the clients that you're working with, they don't want to work with you.
Exactly. Just paying attention. If they don't feel like they're being paid attention to, then what's the point? Yep.
Even though they're contingency based, it still takes up some of their time through emails and conversation, because you got to get as much information about the role as you can. Mm-hmm. It isn't like, here's a job description, go find it. It's like, no, let's sit down and talk for an hour. What are you exactly looking for? What were your struggles? What, have you used a recruiter before? What have been the biggest issues on hiring this on your own? Have you used job postings? Like, what have you done on your own to fill this on your own that you can't do, that you need me?
And that, from their side of it, do you find that that they reach out to multiple of you, or is it more of a loyalty thing that they only work with a couple of you?
It depends. Usually it depends on the size of the company. Like, the bigger the company, usually they start using more recruiters. They kind of wore themselves out a little bit, which I don't like working with those companies. I prefer companies that make between 50 million and 500 million a year. If you're making $1 billion a year in profit, like, if you're a Bosch Rexroth or a Parker Hannifin or a Caterpillar, like, your name is big enough, you shouldn't need me.
Yeah.
Like you put in your
you've already got your own funnel. You're drawing in the applications.
Yeah. Like you don't really need me. And they have their huge in-house internal recruiting teams, and they use outside recruiters. So everybody that's getting touched on, like the chances of me finding that one-off person that helped them, probably pretty slim and not worth my time.
Okay.
Where, I might make 25 grand off that person, whereas I can go to the smaller company that has no leads at all and give them a few people and fill that bitch in like a month and a half and get paid.
Okay.
So it's really, you really have, like, we had to dial back. We had to really determine out of our client list who pays quickly, who actually communicates well, who's actually serious. And we had to dwindle our list down to, right now I probably have about, 16 or 18 clients right now, and probably 40 job openings, which keeps me really busy, but it's manageable.
But I'm going to assume that was part of that 5-year process of all of that time invested to find out. You don't want to waste their time, but you don't want your time wasted. And so the first 5 years is wasting a whole lot of time developing the wisdom to find out where specifically to focus your time.
Yeah. And it's a lot of tripping and stumbling. Like I was so anxious and nervous to talk to some of these people purely based on their title.
Really?
Yeah. Like I can remember the first call because Nate has really been my mentor and business partner, my business partner. He was leaps and bounds ahead of me. He's already built a couple of companies and sold them. He's good at sales. He knows how to handle these high up people. I'm coming in from an assembly, like no communication skills. I'm just a grease monkey that knows how to turn wrenches and talk to people. Okay. So the first calls, he's like, call this VP of HR. I'm like, what? Like, this dude's a VP, dude. Why is he going to talk to me? And I just tripped and stumbled and tripped over my dick on the phone. Like, yeah, this is Josh. I'm with PQ Talent. I'm a really good recruiter. You should work with me. Like, bad. It was so bad.
That's great.
And I still reflect on those phone calls because now, at the end of the day, you just realize they're just people.
And that's just a barrier to say right there is the realizing that they just happen to carry a title, but they're flesh and blood just like everybody else. Yep.
And once you get that in your mind, it's pretty, like, when I tell our new recruiters, like if they get butterflies before they call, I'm like, call a few companies that are kind of off your list that you don't really care about working with too much. Give them a call and just do some practice runs. Get that nervousness out of your system. Get your pitch down, and then move on to your main list.
Get your confidence. Call
your real clients.
And that's because the thing is it does not matter who you are or what you do. You're gonna suck when you start something new. So starting something new and just understanding, it's the repetition of moving from suck to proficiency, and then proficiency starts to bring in a little bit of money, and then you can move from proficiency to mastery where it all ends up being worth the stretch of taking all of the time to go from sucking to actually understanding what it is you're doing and walk in the process.
And like you were saying before we got started, like everybody thinks entrepreneurship is this shiny gem that it's easy to do and your life is so great, you make a shit ton of money, but people don't see, they see the results. They don't see the work put in.
Absolutely.
Ever. Like, yeah, you can sit there and tell somebody, I struggled for years, but they don't really have a concept of what that means because they've never struggled like that before. Like, could you drive a $600 car for 5 years that's falling apart and have bill collectors calling you constantly and you have to borrow money to stay afloat? Could you do that for 5 years because you believe in a dream, because you believe in a long-term goal that's going to work? Like, could you actually do that?
No, and I found out the hard way but you hit on it. Like, it's that faith.
Yep.
It's that dream. It's that knowing, like that internal confidence of knowing what you're doing, that there is an actual payoff and you're enjoying the actual process and understanding that shitty part that you're in, that is part of the developmental process, but the faith of where you're actually going to get down the road.
Yep. It's just, it's been a fun journey. Like, I wouldn't take it back for like all the struggles and stuff. Like, I thought I was going to come out making 150, 200 grand a year my first year doing this. No, was I so wrong? Was I so wrong? But, as I've developed the skills, it's taken me what I used to do, it took me 70 hours a week. I can do in 25 now. So it's all about efficiency
and learning what to do and what not to do and where to place your focus. Yep.
How efficient can you be with your time? That way you can have your free time. Because for me, entrepreneurship is about, and what I think is success is owning your time, being able to do what you want when you want and not have to be in an office, because you can be an entrepreneur but still work 80, 90 hours a week in the facility that you own. It's still a job to me.
Yep.
You're still handcuffed to some entity.
Exactly.
Where I've got lucky enough where everything I can do can be done from a computer, a cell phone, and an internet connection anywhere. Even the kit card company that I got into, like that's still remote. That's still just sales and marketing online, and doing my network and recruiting is all online. Like I've purposely developed, after accidentally falling into recruiting, I decided a new business, like if I got into a new business, I don't want something that's going to chain me to a building somewhere.
Because it'll take away your freedom.
Right. It's going to take away my freedom. And my time for me is very valuable. I like being able to do it.
Yep.
Like I would rather make $100,000 a year working 20 hours a week than chain to a building, make $500,000 and work 80, 90 hours a week. Because when am I going to have time to spend the money?
Yep.
Like,
well, and I do want to ask, because one of the things that I look back on as a mistake that I made was that there were many times where I teetered on burning out, and it was my own fault. I did not bother to take the time to celebrate the small wins, but realizing, like your story, like in the first 5 years when you're chasing or when you're avoiding bill collectors, there's not a whole lot that you can really do to go out and reward yourself. Right. But at what point, and because I know that, I mean, I've seen some pictures on Facebook where you just came back off of a vacation. How important is it that that you do reward yourself, whether big or small ways, as you're actually going through it? I mean, do you think that it is applicable to your mental health through the entire process?
I don't tend to be too materialistic on things. Like it's still, it always boils down to money.
Unless we're talking about putting $50,000 into a Trans Am.
Everybody's got their clutch. So, you know, for me, it's, you know, I still got my eyes on buying a GTR, you know, maybe next year, you know, and they're very expensive cars, but I've worked very hard to get there. But for me, it's for me to buy something like that, it has to be cash flowed. Like I have to be able to say, yeah, I've got the payments, or because I believe in financing everything. I don't believe in paying cash for anything. I believe in leveraging the bank's money, because if you make enough money that you can pay cash for the car, I would just finance it for a few years and then pay chunks of it off until you're ready to go into your next venture, then pay it off and then finance your next deal, because it increases your cash flow.
Yep.
Like I'm all about cash flow. Like I don't care if I have the money to pay my house off now, but I'm not going to, because it only saves me $500 a month.
Yep.
How many years is it going to take me to get that, you know, that initial lump sum back?
Well, and you've touched on something else that, I mean, I actually would like to do a whole different podcast on all of the different ways, but leverage. Like, I don't think people realize how important leverage is, but from leveraging your own emotions, leveraging your haters, leveraging other people's money, leveraging other people's resources, that leverage is what allows you to actually amplify your efforts.
Yep, I agree. And being able to leverage things like that also goes back to being, how resourceful can you be?
Yep.
How can you go out and find these leverage opportunities? Because there's like you said, there's all kinds of things you can leverage. You can leverage time, money, people, social media. Like there's all kinds of things you can do with it. So I'm getting off track with it.
No, you're fine. I think we were, because I mean, I have found that I say I'm not materialistic. I mean, there's a couple big toys that I would very much like to have, but I have found that my rewards and my ways of rewarding myself are through experience.
Yes. Okay. That just clicked back to where we were at. You're asking about, you know, how do I reward myself? It's, you know, vacations. Like I do like going on, like I like experiences. I like creating memories. So, you know, instead of buying that $5,000 or $10,000 TV and entertainment system that I can use every day, which, you know, my $700 TV works just as well.
Right. No, I get it.
I can't tell a difference. I would rather go spend that and go see some place I've never seen before, or experience a new culture, or gain some kind of experience, or like a new skill set. Like maybe Like, I think it would be cool to go drive on a road course, like in a race. Like, cars are my thing. So, that's expensive. It might cost you $600 or $800 for a weekend.
And you might have to let me know. So I'm in this leasing program, and I got into the leasing program because it was the Chrysler 300s got me into them. And then once the Chrysler 300s, once they stopped stocking them on the lots, then I had to start making moves around. And then I couldn't wait for Jeep to bring out like the Wagoneer, because it was like, or when are you going to bring out something so I was able to enjoy that for a year and a half. But I just turned it in, and I picked up a Durango SRT.
Oh, okay.
And I've been wanting to, like, okay, the TAC and the thing goes to 180, and I'm like, yeah, but when or where am I going to have an opportunity to do that? And I'm like, I know that there's road courses. I know that there's places that you can take your vehicle out to find out, and I want to find out.
Yeah.
There are places.
Putnam, Indiana, I think, has a road course. I think they're down south. I can't remember exactly where they're at. They have a nice road course.
Okay.
And from what my experience, like, I've never been to one, but from just reading, like, there's different levels of experience that you go through when you go. So when you go on the track, you might have it guided. You're not allowed to pass anybody. So you just have like your instructor, then whoever else is driving, you follow everybody. And then, once you kind of level up or whatever, then that's when you can kind of go out on your own, like, as you get used to the track. So I think it'd be a lot of fun, but taking a GTR to a track every weekend, I mean, the maintenance cost is outrageous. I mean, you're going through tires, you're going through brakes, you're putting wear in the engine and transmission, like, you're changing fluids all the time. Like, it's a very expensive hobby.
And what hobbies ended up, let's just say for a time I had a hobby of, I loved my houseboat until it sunk.
So my passion had always been cars, and I've always dumped stupid amounts of money into them, but I had to learn to actually pull myself away from my passion, because it wasn't going to allow me to grow the way I wanted to.
It might bankrupt you.
It might bankrupt me. Yeah. Like, and I've got a lot of friends that still spend 50% of their paycheck on their car.
Oh, wow.
That are living paycheck. They make pretty decent money working where they're at, but they still, like, they don't have the money management skills. And I think it stems from addictive behaviors, because you are hitting that dopamine receptor every time you buy a part for your car, or every time you get in the car and have that adrenaline rush. Like,
well, and that right there is why I get into because I hate the class warfare bullshit, because it is just a different mindset. Both sides have the same wants and desires. The one side will live paycheck to paycheck, and they will dump their added resources that they've developed into their hobby and then wonder why they're broke. The rich will take those added resources and put them into an investment. And then when the investment kicks off money, then they will go put it into their hobby or their pet project. So the investment is always kicking off extra money itself, giving them the extra money to put into, so that it's never bankrupting them. And it's every time that they're out there earning, they're finding a new investment. They're building up their investment portfolio. And then the profits that are kicked off of those investments are what they use to actually maintain those hobbies. And it's the same thing done differently, because this dude is working hard. He's just not directing. It's delayed gratification, because the first thing you got to do is direct that money towards an investment that'll take a little bit of time to pay off. But it's a reoccurring cash flow forever. And that is the difference between the rich and the poor. And it is just about, what do you do with the money that you earn? Get that money earning, and then you can actually start to have those nice things.
Don't use earned income to buy toys. Use passive income to buy toys, which everybody says that. But passive income it's not easy to develop. It takes time. And people don't, I think it comes back to, like, working that weekly structure, that bi-weekly structure that makes people impatient, because they want that instant gratification.
And that's the instant gratification, because it's like, it's not, you can develop a skill set like you have and think about the ways that you can direct, or, because I know that you're heavy into this side of it. It's not, and I'm going to pull a stock out of my ass that I'm not overly familiar with, but the point is they pay a dividend. Like, you could take your money and invest it in GE or invest it in Microsoft, and it's a relatively safe investment, but then you're going to get a quarterly dividend. And then what you do with that dividend, that's where that delayed gratification comes. And once that check, well, then fine, go spend it.
Yep.
Because you're going to have another dividend check coming another quarter later.
I think another big part of it is like, for me, in my experience, so if you're going to make an investment in something, like, it's going to take at least $50,000, $100,000, more the merrier, right?
Yep.
More the best. But
it's not hard when you say you end up putting $50,000 into your Trans Am. There is plenty of gearheads that literally end up putting $25,000 or $50,000 into a single project. So it's not hard to comprehend coming up with that much money. It's the extra step of investing to get to.
It's maybe it took them 5 years to save up that $100,000. So now they have this secured, like this protective behavior around their money. They're like, well, if I invest this money, there's a chance to lose it. I'm investing it, and I'm not getting anything materialistic or quantifiable out of spending this money right away. So it makes them scared to invest the money initially because it took them so long to save up that much money. And then now they got to wait 5 or 10 years to see a really good return on their money. Like, to them, it's not really worth it. They'd rather go out and spend it on something that makes them happy now than wait and suffer like you should to get a good return to do much better things in the future.
And that right, and I just come back to yes, with science and technology, we have the ability to live longer, and people are so short-sighted that delayed gratification might mean 5 or 10 years as opposed to gratification right now. But you're going to live till you're 70, 80, 90, 100 years. So making that 5 to 10 year sacrifice it's not as big of a deal as what people make it out to be.
And I think the biggest people that struggle the most with it, like, because there is a barrier to entry to investing. Like, you do have to make a certain amount of money. And a lot of people don't make enough to go do any type of good investing. Like, if you make $50,000 a year, you're bringing home $35,000, $36,000, $38,000 a year after taxes. Like, and then you have your expenses that come out of that. Like, you might have an extra $5,000 or $8,000 laying around at the end of the year. Like, that's all you can save for that whole year. $5,000 to $8,000 is not a lot of money to go do any type of investing with, like, to get a good return off of.
Yep.
Like, you're going to have to do that multiple years.
That's what we're saying. Until you start compounding that over a 5 or 10 year period. Yep.
So those people have it even tougher because they have very little to start with, and little money makes little money. Big money makes big money. Like the saying, it takes money to make money. Yeah, kind of. But it takes money to build wealth.
Yep.
Period. Like, yeah, you can do a hustle job like I do and inject that money into investments and make really good money in 10 or 20 years off investments. Yeah, you could do that. But if you want to create wealth, you got to figure out a way to, like, 10x that money. Like, really grow that money, whether that's investing in startup businesses or maybe you're a gambler and you YOLO some options. Like,
well, no, and I've noticed that it's because it's the way the wealthy, like, get really wealthy. It's gut that little guys don't have. And when I say little guys, I'm saying when you're unsure of yourself, you spread out little investments across many different planes. You want to see what's actually going to produce a return. But the wealthy will take large amounts of money and place them on a few bets. Yep. And I hate to use the word bets because, like, if they have those large amounts of money, there's a certain amount of seasoned.
Yeah, they've done their homework.
Yes, they're not uneducated bets. Like they're highly, like, researched, and there's been plenty of due diligence when they actually place those large sums.
Yep.
And then the payoff is huge because they place such a large sum on a few bets.
And my entry to that is investing into this kit car company. The end goal with this company is obviously to sell it for an end game, for, a 10x profit, 10x on profit or 3x on revenue, whatever, however you want to do it. But, that the goal is 4 to 5 years, and I should be able to 5 to 7x my investment.
Okay.
Over 4 or 5 years.
But we're talking about a 5-year time frame of.
I'm looking at, I'm probably not going to see a dime off my big investment for probably at least 2.5 years. It will become profitable. because every company like this starts out in the red. Like, you buy a company that's not really profitable yet, yeah, you're in the red. Like, you got cash flow issues. You got to upright the ship and get it going.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're going to do. And we have a plan. It's going to work. If not, we have liquidable assets. We have physical assets at the business that we can sell and hopefully get our initial investment back out.
And I'm assuming at this point, like in the first 5 years, you put every last dime into your betting on yourself. At this point, what you're betting on with this make or break is not going to make or break you. Right. And that's
exactly. And that's, people, because I do a lot of trading. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about risk assessment, you have monetary risk, but then you have fundamental risk. And fundamental risk is kind of hard to quantify because the monetary risk is just a dollar amount.
And I bet people are going to understand but let's steer back towards the fundamental risks.
Like, what are the odds of it actually working, mm-hmm. of this actually being successful? That's hard to quantify. Like, yeah, you can say I put $90,000 into this business. If it fails, if we liquidate, I might get $70,000 out. I'm out $20,000. Okay, that's my physical monetary risk. But the fundamental risk is, okay, how much time am I going to put into it? Is the company going to become profitable? Mm-hmm. If we go to sell it, are we going to be able to find a buyer? Like, those are the fundamental risks that are hard to quantify. And those are the ones you got to kind of go in blindly and kind of have faith in, mm-hmm. that there's going to be somebody out there to buy it, or that you are going to grow the business. Like, that's what I consider fundamental risk.
Well, and I think that
probabilities,
and that because it's in execution, and that's what most people don't understand, is that they will look at this or at any type of business as a whole and say, oh, well, my business is worth X amount of money, and if you just do this in 5 years, it's going to be worth X amount of money. It is about the execution every single day over that 5-year period that gets to that mark, and all of the mistakes and all of the pitfalls and all of the different unknowns that are involved in execution as you are working through that process, where it's like, I go back to that, and I don't remember all the numbers. I want to say it was a lingerie company. I can't remember which one it was, but
Victoria's Secret.
Yeah, but the point is, the dude sells it to a company for like $5 million, and then they turn around and turn it into a multi-billion-dollar business, and he gets depressed about it and throws himself off a bridge. And I'm like, the amount of time and money that they had to put in execution and risk-taking to take it from the valuation that they purchased it from him in order to do this, like, at any time they could have screwed it up 7 ways to Sunday. And he's
it all.
And he's sick about what it was, but it was all of the execution that apparently he didn't have the knowledge and the skill set in order to be able to do himself. And a $5 million payday is still not a bad damn payday, but he was depressed because of what it became. And I'm like, but it's all that execution where I'm sitting there going, if somebody offered me, I don't even want to throw out, but the point is, I have a realistic expectation where I can look at my brands and say they have the potential to be billions of dollars. But I'm not a dummy. If somebody offered me, let's just say 8-figure, I wouldn't need but 10, 15, 20 million dollars to make me feel like all of my work and effort was done. Mm-hmm. And when somebody actually invested all the time and money to exploit it and make it a multi-billion-dollar business, I would be very happy, very proud, knowing the piece that I did to lay the foundation to get there, but knowing at any point they could screw it up along the way. And if they actually got it there, I can just be happy that I was the founder of it. But I know all of that execution, that shit's hard. Yeah. Like, every single day, it is another decision. It's another opportunity to screw up.
And me, I'd praise that person.
That's exactly it. That's where I'm like, I cannot imagine. Yes, like, exactly.
You did something better than I could do with my own.
Because you know the execution that actually to go into it. So yes.
Yeah, I knew what take the billet to here, and you took it to here. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't imagine the work that you had to put in to make that happen, and the money, the dollars.
So coming back to what you're saying, the investment that you have made, in order for you to actually pull the payoff, you have got a 3 to 5 year in execution and those fundamental risks of actually executing. That's what people don't quantitate. They don't see that. They just see the people that actually get the payoff. But then we look at the reality of most people fail, and they fail in that actual execution.
And most people fail when they quit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
very good point, because it's not, the failure's going to happen. It's when you quit. Like you're never moving towards
failures.
Yes.
Like emotionally, and I think me learning how to trade has helped me with two big things: patience and emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to control your emotions, knowing when you're becoming an emotional person, learning how to step back and contemplate on a decision that you're going to make. Like Dustin Ogle, for instance, he told me something that kind of interesting. He does is he takes 72 hours on any big decision.
Really? So okay, he has a 72-hour
He's going to purchase something like a vehicle or make a business investment or whatever, and he's pretty much set on it. He'll give himself 72 hours. He'll circle back around to it and go, okay, do I still want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Does it still excite me? Most people are impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and salesmen generally feed on that.
Yeah.
Because they know that dopamine is flowing.
Yep.
Like, I'll just sign.
No, because I don't like wasting people's time, because I don't want my time wasted. So when we get into decision making like that, I'll start the conversation by telling them, you're not going to close me today, because you're not going to get me there. I'm not going to make a decision like that. Let's have the conversation, and I will set on it. And if it goes forward, it goes forward. But just know I'm not going to appreciate the pressure selling tactics. So don't do that. Let's have a fact-finding information side, because I won't allow myself to even come with a yes or a no in that moment, because I'm not going to fall victim to that.
Yeah, and when I'm doing sales too, I always take that approach as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the fact-finding, the conversation approach. Like, let's just talk and see if this makes sense at all for us to work together anyway. I'm not going to pressure you, because if I got to pressure you into it, I probably don't want to work with you anyway.
Okay.
So they say that it takes an average of 7 touch points for an outside sale to go through.
Talk about touch points.
So like for me, it's maybe I cold call them on a Monday, leave a voicemail, 1 touch point. Call them back on Wednesday, leave another voicemail. On Thursday, I shoot an email. That's 3 touch points. Usually by the time you get to 5 or 7, you can usually turn that into a sale.
Okay.
In my experience. And that's a rule of thumb, the rule of thumb of sales, but just being in sales and doing that kind of outside that cold calling, I can say that's pretty accurate. It's very rare that you get someone on the phone and they immediately go, yeah, I'd like to work with you. It's usually, well, send me information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You send it to them. And then you can't get a hold of them for a week. And then hey, Betsy, it was just, did you get a chance to look at the information I sent? Do you have any questions? Yeah, here's some questions, blah, blah, blah. Let me answer them. Okay. Do you want to move forward working with this? Call me back in a week. Like, it's always a process. It's never just a one and done.
But do you find that it's that, I'm suspecting it's that diligence where they're like, you know what? Okay, this person keeps coming back around. So that
key, man.
Okay.
Like, you got to keep your name in front of them, because you're going to call that person for the first time and tell them your name and how great you are and all this other bullshit. And then by the end of the day, they're going to forget you. They even had the phone call. They got so much other shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to stand out and you have to be persistent. If you're going to be in any type of sales, I don't care what it is, inside sales, outside sales, car sales, whatever, like, you got to be persistent to your customer and you have to be genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to come off not salesy, not pushy, come off as genuine, meaning like you're asking legit questions about their bit. Like, you seem very interested in their business. Like, you have to make them feel like you are going to be a good fit for their solution. So, and that's hard for a lot of people to do. Like, when I've trained people to do cold calling, it's like this weird switch that everybody has. They immediately go to a high-pitched voice. They talk faster. They talk about themselves. Like, and that's the complete opposite of what you need to do.
I want to ask, because I realized it pretty early on, and then I started actually putting systems in place where, generally speaking, everybody knows that a small piece of their job when they're working for me is that they're gatekeepers. I mean, is that something that you actually actively like train when you're developing new recruiters? Because I know when it comes to sales, like ultimately you're going to come across gatekeepers, and it's how do you get past gatekeepers to get to decision?
Oh, I love gatekeepers. Gatekeepers are so easy to get by. So simple.
That's funny. I think I'm pretty proud of, that's mine, because I'll be honest, I have trained them to be unapologetic and very blunt and straightforward about, like, you're not going to get past me. Give me your information. And if he's interested, he'll contact you, but you're not getting past me.
So I've always had good luck getting past gatekeepers. Every once in a while you get one that shuts you down, but you just go above their head. And then there's always a way to find that person directly most of the time. But with a gatekeeper, I literally, in my voice, I'm very calm, and I act like I've already spoken to you before.
Okay.
So it'd be like, hey, Lindsay, this is Josh. Is Greg around? And she'll be like, Greg, oh, Greg Mund. Oh, who's calling? Oh, this is Josh. I'm just following up with him on LinkedIn. Oh, okay. Hash me right through. Okay. Like, no questions asked. No, what's this call about? Like, I'm always very vague, but honest. So can I ask why you're calling? Oh, we got connected on LinkedIn. I was just following up to my message to him. Even though I haven't messaged him, she doesn't know.
Yep.
So yeah, they'll be writing their voicemail. I've always had good luck with that, and it seems so simple, but it works.
Yep.
Like if they go, what's this call about? Oh, I'm a recruiter. You had some job open. Click.
Yep.
Like that's what's going to happen. They're going to click or take your name down and throw it in the trash when you hang up. Like there's always a way around the gatekeeper. And then, getting the decision maker on the phone, that's a whole nother story. There's all kinds of different tactics you can take. You can either talk to them as soon as they get them on the phone, which is ideal, or you can leave them a voicemail with your pitch. I've done that before on purpose, basically telling the gatekeeper, hey, can you patch me into Greg's voicemail?
Yep.
And usually they will immediately just do that without asking a question.
That's the path of least resistance for them. Like, I'll just remove this friction for you. Can you just patch me into a voicemail? You know what? I can do that, and I don't have to tell you no.
And they will. And as long as your pitch is good, I've had several companies call me back on voicemail pitches.
Just off of voicemail pitches, really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's all about being genuine, and like I would tell you that there's a script you can follow, but there's not. People that try to do outside sale cold calling scripts, they don't really work. Because one, you can tell they're scripted on the phone. You can tell someone's reading a paper.
Yep.
And every situation is different. Like, so when you're going to cold call a new prospect, you need to do some research about them. Either jump on LinkedIn, try to find some common ground that you have with that person, that you can connect with them on a personal level. So that when you get them on the phone, you can knock those walls down, usually within 3 questions. Hey, I saw you went to IU. How'd you get up there? Or how did you end up in this company? Or something that's going to make them talk about themselves that you seem genuinely interested in. Usually that knocks down their walls and allows you to lead into your pitch better.
Okay.
Instead of immediately coming out and going, hey, this is Josh with PQ Talent. I saw you had an electrical engineering role available. Do you work with recruiters? Would you like to work with it? Like, that's terrible pitch.
Okay.
When you start talking about yourself, how great your company is, they don't know who you are. They don't give a shit how good you are. Like, you could be the best recruiter in the world. They don't care. Like, you have to make an impression on that person. And that's the hard thing to do.
Presenting yourself as a solution, a resource.
And conveying that very quickly within like a 30-second window. Because on the phone, people's attention spans are even shorter than when they're scrolling through their phone.
Yep.
You got to remember, these people are very busy. And like HR people are getting called by multiple recruiters. So you not only do you have to be genuine, you have to stand out.
Okay.
Because if Betty got 6 calls from 6 recruiters with 6 different names today, do you actually think she's going to remember you in specific? Probably not.
So do you have in particular way that you go about trying to separate yourself from the crowd?
Yeah, like I said, I do a lot of research before I call them. I try to find some common middle ground. And usually my go-to, and it seems very simple, but it works. It's, something like, hey, Jason, this is Josh. We got connected on LinkedIn recently. My only question is, how often do you guys work with recruiters or headhunters? I take the assumptive approach that they do. And I ask an open-ended question, like not something they can answer yes or no.
There you go. Not something that leaves them to say words other than just a quick yes or no.
Oh, well, sometimes we use them here and here. Oh, great. I saw this electrical engineering role. How's that going for you? Again, open-ended. How's it going? And then they talk, and then by then you can kind of start throwing in those tougher questions, like do you think you could work with us? Would you be interested in seeing some information? Like, once you get past that first initial part, the second part becomes easier because now you've developed trust with them.
Yep.
So that's how most of my cold calls go, is I just directly ask them, how often do you work with a recruiter or a headhunter? And that works very well for me.
Actually, no, the $1 million question is, do you enjoy the cold calling process?
Oh, yeah, I do enjoy it.
Okay.
I used to hate it. In the beginning, I hated it because it made me feel so anxious and uncomfortable. But now I look at it at a different view. It's like, if I get this dude to say yes, I got 5 positions here. I can make $125,000 off this. So I use that to...
So you've you've gamified it then?
Yes.
Okay.
And especially if it's a company I know I can help, like if I know their products and like I know who they're selling to, like that gives me a lot of confidence. It's like, look, I know your business. I know you probably work with this company, and this company. You might know this person, this person, this person. Like I might even work with some of your competitors. Like, can we work together? Like, I know I can help you. Like, and that works well. I enjoy doing that. And even on the flip side, cold calling candidates is not as stressful because you're coming off, again, genuine, but you're just curious. Usually I ask people, how often do you keep your options open? How often do you really consider your career development? Like, what would you look for if you're happy where you're at, what kind of role would actually catch your attention to make you want to leave your current job? What's your motivator? Is it money? Is it time off? Is it more time with your family? Like, is it more responsibilities, less responsibility? Like, these are all probing questions I ask people to see if they're going to be a good fit for a job, because a lot of that stuff matters. Like, money isn't always the main motivator for people in jobs.
You know what? Honestly, I think what I found is that the shittier the job, the higher the monetary motivating factor. If it's a better job, if there's a better cultural fit, then money is less of a motivator in general. And if it's a shittier job, it better be more money, because that's the only way people are willing to tolerate it.
And the term people quit bosses, not jobs, is absolutely true. I've seen more people quit and leave roles because of upper management than just the company itself, like what they're selling. Like, I've seen a lot more people leave bosses than leave companies, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, even because every time that we have somebody transitioning into management, I'm very quick to tell them, like you're going to have a deeper impact on my business than anybody else, because people are going to decide whether they're going to work for you or not. It's not, at this point, it's not going to be about whether they decide to work for the company or work for me because I'm one removed. It is about your direct report. I mean, who, you either like working with your boss or for your boss, or you don't, and it will be the largest determining factor about whether you actually stay and put your time in towards that company or not.
And I think it comes down to also is your boss, is he a manager or is he a leader? Because those are two different things.
How do you see the difference between the two?
I think, like, leaders lead by example. Managers manage by telling you what to do. Like, for me, I don't like managing people. I don't have a lot of people to manage anyway, but the taste I've got of it, I don't like micromanaging people. Like, here's what I do. Like, I set the expectations. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to send you through training. I'm going to donate my time to you for whatever you need help with. Like, I'm here for you, but I'm not going to be checking in on you every single day or every week to see what you got done. And the reason I can do that is because we pay our people full commission.
Okay.
So if they don't do work, they don't get paid. So if they're struggling with something, I expect them to reach out to me. Now, I do occasionally, like, once a week, hey, how's it going? Is there anything I can help with? Where are you struggling? What do you need? That's how I lead people. I don't go, hey, you made 6 calls this week. Why didn't you make 10?
So you're not managing, you're coaching.
No, I'm coaching.
Yep.
Like, I want them to get on my level. I want them to be better than me at this. If they do, I'm going to make more money.
Exactly.
So, no, like, I'm very hands-off and very non-abrasive people. And unfortunately, that doesn't always work sometimes because some people do need hand-holding and management.
That's funny because no, you're exactly right. But I was, I have been described as abrasive.
And that's okay. Sometimes you have to be, but at the end of the day, do you want to keep somebody around that needs that abrasive management all the time?
Oh, no. And my abrasive is just because I think whether it be in business or in life, hard conversations have to be had.
Yep.
And most people, just out of fear they shy away from those hard conversations. So I have become comfortable with that, having that abrasive role or title, because a lot of times it's necessary, but I don't like tactfully dancing around getting to we really need to have we have a hard conversation that we need to have. So let's just sit down and have it so that we can clear the air and get on with our day. And out of that, it's,
how much emotion you put into it can affect how it goes. Like I'm a part of Leadership Lafayette, and Lafayette, it's for executives and business owners or whatever.
Yep.
But we just went through like conflict resolution. Like what is conflict? Is conflict negative or positive? Because it could be both.
Yep.
It doesn't always have to be negative conflict.
No, I would think when you say what is conflict, it's just where decisions have to be made, where high emotions are involved.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So, how you approach somebody, if someone's doing a really shitty job, like you don't come in and go, hey, you're a piece of shit, and this is why.
Yep.
Like, yeah, you could take that approach, but that's not helping anybody.
Exactly.
So I kind of try to flip it on people and ask them the hard questions. Like, how do you think you're doing? Where do you think you could improve? Are you where you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you enjoy what you're doing? Like, you got to ask those tough questions so that way hopefully that helps them take some responsibility for what they're doing.
And you're going to find out the character of the individual by asking those internally probing questions to find out, like, are they going to hold themselves accountable? Do they actually think deeply around what is creating their actual emotional turmoil in the entire process? Or are they just looking to be a victim and pushing it back on everybody else being
just come up with a bunch of different excuses on why?
Yeah, because some people are just toxic people. I hate that term, but some people are just...
But it's true.
That's just what they are.
Yep.
They're it's all about them, not about the people. Like, it's never their fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's always someone else's fault. They always have an excuse or a reason for something to happen instead of taking responsibility for their actions.
No,
it's hard for a lot of people to do, to reflect internally, like, hey, am I being kind of a piece of shit right now? Like, that's kind of hard to be honest with yourself sometimes.
I laugh about it because it's like, you can look back where it's not hard to be accountable. If you can literally look back and go, it's always everybody else, just maybe it's always you. Yeah. You just maybe let's turn around and actually look at who's in the mirror. Because if it's always everybody else, well, you know what? I know that there's some really, there's some fucked up people in the world, but you don't run across all 100 of them in a row to be like, it's always everybody else. No, just maybe look in the mirror.
It's like when I'm interviewing candidates and it's like, job history is super important, whether people want to believe it or not. Like, jumping from job to job every year or two is not a good thing.
And I didn't know if you were going to go under it, because I see a lot of them that are under a year, and that's a red flag for me.
Yeah.
But you saying every year or two is still a red flag?
Our rule, so in the manufacturing industry, it may be different in some other industries like IT. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more common for people to jump every couple of years. But in manufacturing, like, the rule of thumb is either 3 or 4 and 10.
Okay.
3 jobs in 10 years is like great job history. Like, I had a candidate yesterday. In his 36-year history, his average tenure was 2.75 years.
Over a 30-year career.
36-year career.
That's a lot of moving.
And in the past 10 years, it was 1.25. So I take how many jobs they had or how many years they've been in work and divided by how many jobs they had, and that gives me that ratio.
Wow.
So if it's not 3 and 10 or 4 and 10, if it's more than that,
mm-hmm.
I get them on the phone and ask why.
Okay.
And if they start going, well, I had a problem with management here, and I went to this other job, and then I didn't really like how they were doing things there, and then I went to this role, and again, I didn't like management, and then it's like red flag. It's like, okay, maybe you're the actual problem here.
Exactly.
The 5 successful companies,
right?
You had an issue with management at all 5.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, but it's a red flag.
Management had an issue with you.
So usually I don't submit those people. We are an ESOP kind of, or what is it? equal opportunity, EOP or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Where you can't discriminate age, gender, and race and all that other stuff.
Which you would think that would be like, we have evolved that like, if you're doing any of that shit anyway, like in America, you're setting your,
don't want to do business.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a harsh reality because like a lot of companies out there, like if you get, if you're 58, 60, 62 years old and you're still in the workforce, you're looking to change jobs, you're going to have a hard time.
I mean, I can see that because when we hire, even at the lower levels, it's like, we want to make sure that we can see a clear vision to getting a year or two out of you. But ultimately, as things have evolved, I'm looking for people that I know that in 5, 10, 15 years, I'm still going to be sitting across the table at them. And if you're 60 years old, I'm looking at you going, well, maybe 5, but 10 or 15, like, no. So you automatically have to evaluate all of your candidates for, yes, you're finding the best candidate for today, but ideally you have all of those sunk costs in training. It's going to take you a year to get any type of gelling and cohesion of integrating with the team itself.
Yep.
And if you can be looking at somebody's age and saying, well, whether it's discrimination or not, it's still happening in the back of your head. I can only conceivably get a couple years out of this individual. That's
Yep.
Okay.
And in the recruiting world, it's like, if I'm dealing with somebody who makes, that they're gonna make $150,000 a year, I'm charging this company 25%. That's $37,000
Yep.
or so. So everybody's got a return on investment on their head based on their salary.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm gonna pay you $150,000 a year, you need to return me at least $300,000 a year. How long is that gonna take to get my money? And then on top of your $150,000 salary, I have a $37,000 fee I have to pay to a recruiter. So I'm already $187,000 into you right up front.
And you would be a good gauge of that because I try to get this across to people and they have a hard time grappling with it. When you talk to these owners, CEOs, what is it? And we can just generally revenue. And it's not that you mentioned it. I just always felt that it's higher. If you were hiring, I'd be the first to say, like, how much do you want to make? Oh, you want me to pay you $100,000 a year? Okay, well, how are you going to create $300,000 to $400,000 a year in revenue for me? Like when you're finding these CEOs, what is their general metric for gauging of whatever the salary is? What are they generally expecting in return as far as your income? 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x?
So I've never really had somebody tell me like a quantifiable number, what they want to return. Like it's probably more important if they're hiring like a salesperson or managing like a preset territory of dollar volume.
Mm-hmm.
Because, usually most sales guys are going to make a base plus commission, and usually it's a few percent on gross margin.
Okay.
So if you got a $2 million territory, you might make $30,000 or $50,000 in commission based on top of your base salary. So I haven't really got a chance to really sit down and talk about like, how much product does this person have to sell before they break even? Like, I'm not too sure.
Okay.
But if I had to guess, I would probably say as little as 2 to 3 years. It's even harder to quantify for like an engineer who's designing things.
Which more of the service aspect side of it.
So
Okay.
you're paying an engineer $100,000 a year. How do you quantify how much money is he bringing in based on his designs?
Mm-hmm.
Or how much money is he actually costing or saving us in new designs and making our current design more efficient?
Okay.
Like those are things you have to think about, like, and they're kind of hard to quantify.
Yep.
So I'm sure each company kind of has their own metrics, but I haven't really got to deep dive into really any of them about that.
Okay. So then let me ask you a different question. You generally have market rates. Market rates are determined by the market. Then I know that there are obviously companies out there that they're looking to pay under market rates, which I think is like all you're doing is asking for turnover and like the training and the onboarding is going to kill you. But I know that there are some companies out there that they're willing to pay over market because they feel like that A player that they pay for over market is going to exponentially return from that individual investment to steer clear of market rates. So when you're dealing with your overall portfolio of companies, how many, is the majority of them setting in market rate, or are you dealing with the majority of them that they're trying to legitimately find people that they can pay over market to get the higher performers and to make sure that they're not easily poachable by other headhunters?
So I tend to steer more towards the people that are either at market or just a little bit above market.
Okay.
Because like you said, the ones that pay under market is, you got to remember, I'm going after passive candidates, people that are working, that have good jobs, that are getting paid well.
Okay.
So if I present them with if they're making $100,000 a year and this company only wants to make 80, most people are going to take a $20,000 a year pay cut.
There better be one hell of an upside somewhere. Okay.
That just murders your pool of people that you can even choose from in the very beginning.
Okay.
So then, you change your approach and go to what I call low-hanging fruit, which are people that are not working, that are actually in the active job market with resumes. And again, that brings its own problems.
Because you're not employed. Right. Yeah. Yep.
And why would somebody want to stick around at, company A that makes $80,000 a year, and then company B across the street does $100,000 a year? They do the same shit. This company over here that pays 80 is going to have a lot more turnover. And it's 10 times more expensive to hire someone new than it is to try to keep someone on board.
Absolutely.
So you might as well just pay them what they're worth and keep that person around and keep them loyal and keep them building your business, having turnover over 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, because you're not going to build a culture if it's always turning over. Yep.
But there are companies out there that run that way. Like I worked with a machining company down in Indy. Like they told me, we want some of the best machinists in the area. So I was like, all right. So I went and found some of the best machinists in the area. Well, these guys make $45, $50 an hour. Well, they go through interview and they get offers for $37 an hour. It's like, why are you that's an insult. That is a fucking insult of an offer. I brought somebody that got 20 years of experience, knows G code, M code, can do design, knows how to set up a CNC machine. They could run that whole department, and you want to underpay them by $20 an hour. I thought you wanted the best.
That was a waste of time. Yeah.
What do you really want?
Yeah.
Because if you want the best, you're going to have to pay for it. It doesn't.
I want the best 20-year-old that's never actually made that kind of money. So,
yeah. So I did that. I think I went through 5 candidates and they all made them lowball offers. It just pissed me off. So I was like, you know what? I'm not working with you guys anymore. So I just stopped communicating with them.
Okay.
And then when that happens, I'll get a little vengeful and I'll go poach their people. I'll go find another machine shop and be like, you know what? These people over here underpay their people and they're assholes. You want to hire these guys? Let's take them over here. Let's get them a natural, better opportunity. Fuck that.
Well, and that the thing is I'm not going to laugh because again, I hate, I have always positioned myself to say I am competing against the big businesses because I hate the thought of taking food off of another small business's plate. But, and I mean, I'm using "but" as a correct term. But if you're not going to be a prudent business owner and literally try and pay your people well and take care of them well, then you get what you're asking for. And that's I know a small business like that, you won't necessarily unionize, but I come from a union background, and I'm like, anytime that you are a big enough number to where you're just a number, well, then I'm not against unions, because unions allow collective people to speak as one voice to make sure that they're taken care of when they're working for a company that's making a whole lot of money, to make sure they're actually taken care of. But as a small business, if you're going to build anything, well, you should probably better make sure that you're taking care of the people that's actually building it. And if you don't, you end up in situations like what you just referred to.
And when I hear the word small business, so I think of small business, I think of 10 employees or less. Now, this machine shop, they probably had 30 or 40 employees. They probably did $50 million a year in revenue. So to me, yeah, they're a small business, and maybe I'm an asshole for trying to steal their people. I'll own it. But at the same time, for one to underpay some of the best talent that you're looking for, because they're doing aerospace components and medical device components, you have
serious life or death stuff,
right? They have certifications they have to have. You have to have people that know what they're doing, so you don't. If you're going to run 500 parts to a CNC machine and you screw all of them up, that's a lot of money that you just lost on bad parts. So if you're trying to protect your quality but you're hiring subpar people pay wise, that to me is just pinching margin. You're just pinching dollars to make as much money as possible for the business, which I understand. But at the same time, it's like, you got to pay people what they're like. If you can afford to pay people what they're worth, pay people what they're worth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're going to stick around, like, and they're going to be appreciative. They're going to love their jobs more, like, when they're happy.
Yep.
Like, knowing that that company doesn't want to pay you just because they don't want to. Yeah, we got $50 million in the bank, but we're not going to pay you guys anymore this year. We're just going to keep the cash for ourselves. Like, I don't like that shit.
No, that's what I said. I go the other direction where I really is servant style leadership. And if the people, if you're going to build something of substance and of value, well, then take care of the people that are actually helping you actually build it. And if you're doing it right, then there's going to be more than enough to go around for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's just like this whole Chrysler thing going on, like with the strikes and stuff and people wanting more money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm on, like, I can see both sides of it. Like, you know, the workers are like, you know, we get the work done. You know, we're the ones actually putting the product out the door, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, without them, you guys wouldn't have anything to build. But at the same time, the people steering the ship are the ones bringing the business in. So without them too,
no, and it
balance.
It is that because those executives, by and large, ended up getting paid for value creation, and that value creation is based off of, okay, well, the stock price was here, and over a 5-year period, they moved it to here, and that's their metric, as opposed to the workers that are the metric on the actual volume. Exactly.
Yep. So I always kick it like, you know, they wanted a 40% raise. To me, as a business owner, I would look at it as, you know, okay, you know, you do get paid well, because all these factories, they do what's called wage studies.
Mm-hmm.
So all the factories around here, they gather average wage and they kind of get together and go, okay, this is what we pay our people, this is what you pay theirs. And they try to keep it pretty competitive.
Yep.
Because if not, you'd have everybody in one factory. You'd have, like, if Caterpillar paid $50 an hour and Chrysler paid $25, everybody from Chrysler is going to go to Caterpillar.
Yep.
And then Chrysler won't have any, like, you're going to hire a certain type of person, your quality is going to go through the floor. So you have to stay competitive.
Yep.
So, but at the same time, if you're wanting a 40% increase, are you going to put in 40% more effort? Because I know what you guys do there.
Yep.
I've got a bunch of friends that...
No, I get it. That's...
Like, I see your iPods. Like,
yep.
I see your iPads and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
No, I do have, because I mean, that I had a friend of mine that, I mean, because I stayed up on all of that, and he was like, it's not enough. And I'm like, dude, like, what do you mean it's not enough? I mean, and I'm sitting there going, the mentality of the individual that is in Detroit dealing with Detroit cost of living. But in Kokomo, I'm like, Kokomo has been the beneficiary of wages negotiated out of Detroit with some of the lowest cost of living. So I'm like, the people of Kokomo should be very happy with that contract. But what killed me in all of those contract negotiations was that GM was the biggest holdout, and today they're announcing a $10 billion stock buyback. So while you're going through all of those negotiations, woe is me, we can't afford this.
You're about to drop big money.
Yeah, you're literally just to inflate your, stock. Yeah. Most people don't understand, but I mean, the stock buyback program itself, that is a shareholder tool to either prop up or boost your stock price itself. It's not necessarily value creation in any way, shape, or form. And I'm like, for the investment cycle for car companies that we're talking about 2, 3, 4 years before you ever bring a product to market, I would think you would be keeping that $10 billion in the bank to make sure that you had a nice, cushy, rainy day fund.
Yeah.
But we just heard all the woe is me's about why you couldn't agree to this contract and actually pay your people well. Now to go the other direction where you're talking about plant closings and $10 billion for the stock buybacks, I'm like, sorry, dude, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And it's not a dude in this situation. It's a chick. And it doesn't... I'm not going to judge Mary Barra one way or another. I mean, that's because there's a lot of intricacies, but the reality is I'm like, yeah, this narrative is not lining up correctly.
Like, if it wasn't for the government bailout in 2008, like, GM and Chrysler would not exist.
You are absolutely correct. Yep.
So,
Yep.
We'd have Ford and Tesla. That's it.
Exactly. Okay, we need to actually start wrapping this up but I've got a general question for you because I know that you've got some good information to bring to the table.
Yeah.
But I've also got a surprise question at the very end. It was due to a question Matt hit me with a month ago, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna work this into it. Principles for success, both in life and business.
Okay, so when I got that question, I was just going to rattle off the top of my head, but I actually sat down on my computer and I wanted to write these out because I think they're important. So I'll just run through them really quickly. I'm not going to tell you the descriptions, but I think you need to set clear goals for yourself, attainable goals. Like, you don't want to come out of the park swinging and go, I'm going to make $1 billion this year, because it's not
realistic.
It's probably not realistic.
Yep.
So set clear, attainable goals. You should always embrace continuous learning. Like, my partner and I always call it keeping your blade sharp. You might be sharpening both sides of that blade all the time. Like, you should be learning your industry, learning not so much paying attention to your competitors, but paying attention to your customers.
The fallacy is that people think education is over once they get out of school. And I'm like, no, that's when it's beginning. Yep.
Yeah. Continuous education. That doesn't mean going to school. That just means diving in every day and keeping a thumb on the heartbeat of your market. You should develop strong work ethic. Like, you got to develop the grit.
Specifically for the character of having strong work ethic. Yes.
Yeah, because if you work 70 or 80 hours a week, to me, that's not working hard. You're just putting long hours in.
Yep.
What are you doing in those 70, 80? Like, how are you gauging progression and attaining goals? If that makes sense. So it takes a lot of grit, a lot of hard work, perseverance, and it's hard to sometimes overcome challenges that you run across. So you got to build resilience. Like, you got to be able to take those no's.
Take the hits.
You got to take the kick in the teeth, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen a lot.
Yep.
And especially in the beginning. Like, it's going to I couldn't tell you how many times I wanted to quit recruiting because it was just no after failure after failure. So you have to take that in stride. Like I was saying earlier, there's always a good outcome there's always a good and bad to every outcome. There's always a give and take. You need to learn how to foster relationships, whether that's in your personal life, with your spouse, and I think that comes down to communication. I think communication is key. You have to develop good relationships with your customers so they trust you, so they keep coming back. I think relationship building is very important. You got to practice financial prudence. To learn how to manage cash flow is a big issue. Most people don't know how to handle money.
They don't teach it in school no more, that's for sure.
No, they don't know. Most people don't know how to invest. They don't know how to handle their cash flow. They have a very short vision with money. So getting over those issues is important. Time management, prioritizing your time. So breaking down everything you do in a day and going, okay, at the end of the day, what task am I doing that actually puts dollars in my pocket? That's what you should be focusing on.
No, I love it when people are like, I don't have time. And I'm like, yeah, how many hours a day do you watch TV?
Right.
It's
when we first got in the recruit, we do a thing called time blocking. 8 to 8:30, I'm doing this. 8:30 to 9, I'm doing this. 9 to 9:30, I'm doing this. If you follow that rigid schedule, you'll be so much more productive than just, I guess, quote unquote, winging it. And just, I'm going to put an hour here, 15 minutes there, 5 minutes there, 2 hours here. If you're jumping around a lot, your priorities are going to get mixed up. Cultivate emotional intelligence. So I think this is a big one, is understanding and realizing when you yourself are becoming emotional and learning how to control that, because emotions can make or break you. Especially in trading, if you take a position and you start getting butterflies in your stomach and start getting nervous about the position, that probably means you went too big. You probably put too much money in. Or
I think EQ gets you further in life than IQ.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. I think work-life balance is important. I think being able to shut it off at the end of the day and do what you want is healthy. If you're constantly stressed by your business, you need to find a way to mute some of that.
Then that's easier said as an entrepreneur, easier said than done.
Yes.
Yep.
Adapt to change. Being able to make quick decisions, good decisions quickly when situations arise. It could be like something in my business would be, I just had 5 candidates fall out. Well, there goes 70 grand worth of revenue. What do I do? Instead of sulking at it and getting emotional, put something into play and take action. Stay true to your values. I think integrity and authenticity and ethical behavior are number one. Like, I'm a big believer in karma. If you fuck somebody over, it's going to come back to you eventually.
Yep.
In some way, shape, or form, it's going to come back.
No, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with having non-negotiables. I mean, those are just core principles and values that allow you to look yourself in the mirror.
I like the term, just do right by people.
Absolutely.
Take calculated risks. Like, in any business, in any investment, there's always going to be some type of risk amount. And you have to be okay with the risk. You have to know how to calculate it. Like I was saying earlier, whether it's monetary risk or fundamental risk based on probabilities, you have to be able to willingly and emotionally take that risk. So, and that's hard to do. That just takes practice.
I mean, I think entrepreneurs in general process risk differently than the average person, but yeah.
And it also has to do with stepping out of your comfort zone. If it makes you uncomfortable, that's probably a good thing, and it's probably a learning experience.
Absolutely.
If you're constantly comfortable, you're probably not going to grow very much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Focus on customer satisfaction. This is kind of a duh one, but as long as your customers stay happy and they trust you, you have integrity with them, chances are they're going to come back.
Well,
even if you're more expensive, they know who you are.
Well, and that ties into the relationship building, because I've never really been overly comfortable with the word networking. But when you frame it as relationship building, and it's like, yes, people will overpay or they're willing to pay more because they have a higher value of the relationship outside of just the actual product or service itself.
Embrace leadership and responsibility. I think it's a big one. Being able to lead people by example and taking responsibility for your actions too, and being honest with those responsibility. It's like, if you fuck up, be honest with your team. Hey guys, I screwed up, and this is why.
And generally, you will get more participation out of them by showing that you're actually holding yourself accountable.
That and respect.
Yep.
Though they will respect you more as a leader when you're honest with them and yourself.
Absolutely.
And then obviously practice gratitude and positivity.
And that one right there is, it's like, I see the highly successful and the gurus. They say that, and I don't disagree. It's a mindset, but it's really hard to stomach or hear that in those first 5 years. Like you have to leverage and make use of fuel out of some of the negative, because when it's really, really hand to mouth, it's really hard in that moment to find that gratitude. We generally find that gratitude after,
right,
on the backside of it.
Yep. So I think practicing the gratitude and always staying positive, because like, I'm a big proponent of energy. Like, you become what you put off.
Yep.
If you're constantly negative, probably bad shit's probably going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, so I always try to look at the positive things of whatever the case may be, whatever the situation is. Even if it's a bad situation, I try to pull out the positive nature of it. Like, what did I gain out of it?
Well, and I mean, we are all energy. You're going to bring back to you what you're radiating out.
And you can't create or destroy energy. It will be transferred.
Exactly. Okay, so I want to get to it, because Matt hit me with this when I was talking about something that I'm like, ooh, that's really good. It was very thought-provoking for me. Are you afraid of boredom? Do you fear being bored?
I don't know if I fear it, but I know that it makes me uncomfortable. Like, if I'm not moving or progressing, like, I can't explain the emotional feeling, but
anxiety?
Yeah, maybe a little bit anxious. Like, I should be doing something instead of sitting on my ass. Like, but I'm a type of person that gets bored very easily. So I have to have, like, even in my work, like, searching for candidates can get fucking boring. So I have to switch it up to stay productive.
Okay.
So boredom doesn't scare me. It just makes me anxious, because it makes me feel like I should be doing something. And I've told people, and like my fiance this too, is, even if I had $10 million in the bank, I would not be the person that just sits around and watches TV and sits on my money.
Yep.
Like, I would still go out and build a business or try to help other people, or I'd always do something.
Exactly.
Like I can't sit still.
No, and that's
I don't think I'll ever retire.
No, and that right there, because I 7 days a week. And it's not 7 days a week because I have to. It's because I would drive myself nuts if I didn't get up every day and follow my routine and feel like, even if on the weekends I accomplish a little less or I spend a little bit less time focusing on work, I still feel like I have to get up every day and do some type of work to have some sense of satisfaction of accomplishment, even before I go, okay, now I'm going to kick back and have a lazy day.
Yeah.
If I try and just have a lazy day, like something doesn't feel right because I didn't accomplish something on that day. And it was I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about this. And he's like, you know what? I think that you're afraid of being bored. And I'm like, man, I never really thought about it in that frame, but there was something to it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not a workaholic. Not like, there are some days where I get more done than others.
Exactly.
Like, and sometimes I do take a day off and not do shit and just play video games all day because you have to have that reset. But
that's unplugging. Yeah.
But if you go, like just like a stock, like if it runs, it's going to crash eventually. It's just like a runner.
Exactly.
Like if you're a marathon runner, you can only run so long before you get tired. And I'm the same way. Like I'm very, very money motivated. Don't get me wrong. Like that's what got me started in recruiting was the money, but I've developed a passion for what I do. So now the money is just a byproduct of producing results.
Exactly.
So,
but it didn't start with the passion. It started with just the determination and the resolve to actually develop a new skill set.
Yep.
Okay.
That's all it was. And I think some people get it backwards. Like some people have a passion for something and then try to turn it into a business. And not all passions are profitable.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the thing is everybody thinks that they have a brilliant idea. And I'm like, I don't want to take away from anybody, but there's 7 billion of us. Like you're not so original that you're having this original idea. Every idea ever had.
Not doing something new.
No, there's many people that have thought about it before. It's likely been tried before and not everything is profitably monetizable. Yes. All right. Before we wrap this up, Matt, do you have any question or any insights or thoughts as we're bringing this to a close?
I mean, the only question I have, which is completely off topic of business, is going back to LS1 Tech because I also was on that forever and followed a lot of the people doing what I was doing, dumping a lot of money into a car, never getting out of. What was your name on there? Do you remember?
All Out 06.
Was it black?
It was red car. Yep.
No, I'm sure I followed the build progress on it though.
The cool thing about LS1 Tech is I actually know the owners that own that, and they sold it back in like 10 years ago.
Yeah, 2008, 2009.
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
I'm friends with both of them. I met them through the car community.
Okay,
the owners of this forum, and they made really good money off that.
Off of just building the forum,
sponsorships and the ads and everything.
I want to say they sold it for like $1 million or something. Mm-hmm. Like that guy could be wrong. Sorry if you're watching this, Tony, John, if I got that wrong. But no, they did a great job with it and monetized it and sold it as a business. And actually Tony, one of the owners, he's an entrepreneurial coach.
Yep.
Now he owns multiple businesses, but he wrote a book on called Side Hustle Millionaire. It was like #1 on Amazon for a long time, and just a good dude. Like we're friends on Facebook, and I see his stuff every once in a while. It's motivational. It's just cool to see, like, we all came from the car community and seeing all these people do different things. Like you said earlier, it's just the car people are a unique group of people.
Yep.
Super loyal, like,
super supportive.
Yeah, super supportive. They'll come over and help you with anything you need. Like, just a good group of people, and I'm glad I've came from that.
No, and I think that's that blue collar background where I'm like that. Blue collar middle class people are some of the best hearted people. They might not be the best when it comes to managing their money and doing the best with their finances in general, but when it comes to heart, I mean, like, just
that comes back to, like, it's not their fault they're that way. That's what we're taught.
Yep.
We're taught to be employees.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, you are born to be a consumer. You go out and produce to earn money to go consume. They don't teach you to actually invest. It's just go earn it so that you can go spend it on something, because that's what turns our economy, all of that spending and consumption.
I mean, that's why we're capitalistic. I mean, consumers drive the economy.
Absolutely.
Without spending money, the economy is not growing.
Yep.
So luckily, we have a very small percentage of people that are investors like us that can go make a lot of money to consume, what we want and not continually consume and go broke.
Oh, well, don't get me wrong, because we go like I said, it takes all types to make the world go round. Yeah, I mean, of our nation, you're talking about 7 or 8% of us are entrepreneurs.
Yep.
If this nation was 100% entrepreneurs, we would have total chaos. Oh, yeah. Like it wouldn't work. It really does take everybody to make it all work.
And I'd say 90% of the people aren't cut out to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah. No.
They are made to be an employee, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yep.
Like some people.
Oh no, I'll take it one step further to be like, you know what? Like, if you're a normal person, like, don't be mad about it. There's a certain kind of like fucked upness that entrepreneurs carry around, that we become okay with ourselves, but we can look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I know I'm a little bit screwed up. I'm a little bit broken in a different way. That I would not encourage somebody else to walk my path. And I mean, it's special breed without it being insulting, because it's what built America. But yeah, no, generally I would not describe us as normal or average.
I agree.
No, it's special breed to be an entrepreneur.
It's one of those, like, I still have days, even after doing this for 9 years, it's like, I still have days I wake up and look in the mirror and go, is this thing going to continue this year?
Yep.
Like, am I going to be doing recruiting in a year from now? Like, we always have that, I wouldn't say fear, but we always have that unknown. Mm-hmm. We don't know when our next check is.
No, and I think that's the entrepreneur is able to take a step forward in the unknown, and generally the employee wants to be comfortable in the known.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I 100%. I like that. Yep.
All right. We're going to wrap this up. Questions, comments, concerns, snide remarks, please share the show and leave any comments, and we will circle around to address them. But Josh, definitely thank you for coming out, and thanks for the information.
Had a good time, and if you guys are ever interested in becoming a recruiter, I'm always looking for people.
That's what I was about ready to say. What's best social media handle, best place to find you?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn is a big one. I'm huge on LinkedIn. Just shoot me a message. Connect with, add me as a friend on Facebook. I'd be happy to talk to you. Like I said, we only pay full commission. So, I'm really looking for somebody who's got the entrepreneurial spirit and wants to do something different with themselves and actually make a difference.
And that's because that's the thing about sales. So you have unlimited income ability. It just comes to how hungry are you?
Yep. Comes down to your grit and how bad do you want it?